Welcome to the ODDSBREAKER'S #1 place for shared, sharp betting information.
Welcome back to podcast 31 of 2021. I'm your host, Kiev O'Neil. You can follow me on Twitter at OBKiev. Follow us at The ODDSBREAKERS and follow us on social media / The ODDSBREAKERS. This episode is being brought to you by MyBookie.ag. For a 50% sign-up bonus, please visit MyBookie and use the promo code ODDSBREAKERS. Terms, conditions, and location apply. If you'd like to help us out with our cost sponsor the website and the podcast, we'd love to help you out. Please visit theoddsbreakers.com, click shop, and become a member. For $24.99 a month, you can get my plays and premium plays before the line moves. And if nothing else, please visit theoddsbreakers.com and become a free picks newsletter subscriber. My friends, we have a great show for you today because Cub Fan Danny is going to come back so we can break down UFC 261 and give you some leans and some plays for Saturday's festivities. Before we get into that, I'm going to go over our NFL Mock Draft 1.1. And yes, our 1.1 is a lot later than some of the conglomerates like ESPN and CBS, but they've changed theirs so many times. I figure why not start until the week before the draft? Why do it beforehand? So I put some time, actually a lot of time and effort into this. And even though it's going to change so much, it at least gives me an idea of what teams need. Now, do GMs follow that? What I think they need? No. I don't even think they correctly follow what they need. I think they sometimes would just draft based on impulse or just the best player instead of getting somebody they need. So there's always a lot of variance that happens. But you can also find some gold in this draft because there's just certain players that have a very little chance of being drafted at some of the spots these books are predicting them, right? When Ross Tucker was on the show a couple days ago, we talked about Bateman over 26.5 picks. Well, that's now moved to 27.5, juice to the over. You know, we got on that one early. It's important to do that, right? So that's why the time and effort that I put into hopefully can still make some sense for you guys, because there's still going to be a lot more movement in these lines and there's a lot more information to come out. So the way I do my mock draft is that I talk about which teams are going to pick who, or who I think they're going to pick, of course. Don't know what they're really going to do, and what they should do. Okay? I think there's a big difference on what they will do and what they should do. I mean, you could look at the Dallas Cowboys last year. What did they do? They drafted a sexy receiver. What should they have done? Traded back and get defense. Obviously that receiver didn't move the needle, and they weren't exactly winning much with Dak Prescott there anyway. The team was massively flawed. Bad secondary. No depth at linebacker, at outside linebacker. No depth on defensive line. They had a lot of holes that they did not fill. Their offensive line was bad too. Emmitt Smith just could not get running the ball. He just couldn't. Dallas screwed up once again for that sexy pick. So that's why I do it like this. It's not a foolproof way of doing things, but it could also take you off some plays that you might want to bet just because a team you think might need something so bad, even though the mock drafts have it as them picking something you might want to move away from it. I think there's going to be a lot of chaos in this draft, right? After the third pick. Now, the San Fran already moved up. Imagine if that happened the day of the draft, right? If that happened, and all of a sudden the teams move back that are possibly predicted to move back, which are like the Lions, the Cowboys, the Atlanta Falcons, and some mocks. But the San Fran did it early, and they gave up a lot. They know who they're going to pick at number 3. And there's a lot of speculation. I think the only people that know are the people tight in that organization with John Lynch, the GM over there. You know, it was Mac Jones was the favorite. Then it flipped to Justin Fields because of all the speculation of him being close to the program through other people, which he kind of is. But at the same time, that doesn't mean that they're going to draft him. So now it flipped again. Mac Jones is the favorite once again. But I'm going to do it based upon a little bit of how I ranked the quarterbacks in last show with Ross Tucker. And I'm going to do it based upon what I think they're going to do, obviously. All right, well, let's get right into this draft then, shall we?
Let's do it.
All right, we're going to start right off with the Jacksonville Jaguars. Obviously, the first pick. They ain't trained in nowhere. Trevor Lawrence, quarterback, Clemson. I got to tell you, Trent Baalke got lucky that the Jets decided to win last year. I mean, how bad is your team if they lose 13, 14 games in a row and then they all of a sudden decide to win to ruin your tank for Trevor pick? You know, it blows me away because I think that Lawrence is a step above everybody else. He's the epitome of solid, in my opinion. And he was very good even without a great Clemson team. I didn't think Clemson's team was all that great last year. I mean, they're above average for sure, you know, but their offensive line wasn't elite like Alabama, Ohio State, Oklahoma, you know. Their wide receivers weren't elite. You know, Trevor Lawrence pretty much had to run that team himself, you know, and he still made it to the playoffs and still did very well in the ACC, you know. So, I mean, in my opinion, 6'6" frame, 70% completion. He had COVID last year and still had 24-5 touchdown to interception ratio. I love it. There's a no-brainer. Trevor Lawrence is the best quarterback in this draft, and he's also probably the candidate that has the highest floor in this whole draft out of anybody. Highest floor out of the quarterbacks and probably highest floor out of anybody. I think he's going to be a fantastic football player. Number 2, the New York Jets, who I think they're going to pick. Zach Wilson, quarterback, BYU. He had an amazing pro day. Who I think they should pick, Justin Fields, Ohio State. Now, if you listen to our last episode, I had Fields ranked higher. Wilson played in an easy schedule, an extremely easy schedule, 104th in difficulty under Sagarin, but he still looked great on his pro day. He threw the ball far. He's got a gun, 33 TDs, 3 interceptions. He's got a high ceiling, but his floor is also a little bit low for me. So the Jets are going to be stuck with Zach Wilson from what all the speculation is. Number 3, the San Francisco 49ers. I'm still sticking with Justin Fields in that rumor. There's correlation there. He's got the speed. He had an amazing 40-yard dash at 4.44 seconds in his pro day. You got to love that. There's some stuff coming about his epilepsy or something, and maybe he is epileptic, but it hasn't stopped him from playing any college football games whatsoever. The kid's just really a winner. He's a great competitor. And obviously you can look at Mac Jones and Trey Lance. Mac Jones also had a ton of talent around him, maybe even more talent at Alabama. But he also had the best system over there, I think, with Steve Sarkisian. And certainly the best athletes. I mean, looking at Fields, he can throw any route. He throws it deep very well. Saw him throw it to Wilson and Olave. I think it's Fields. And they were talking about Ron Veal working with Fields over the past 3 months in Southern California. And he is heavily involved in the quarterback collective alongside the Shanahans, the LA Rams, as well as the Packers, Matt LaFleur, who came from the Rams. So John Beck, who played under Mike Shanahan, Kyle's father, in Washington, has been working with Fields also. So there's the correlation that everybody is using the speculation on. Next, we have total chaos. And this is the part in the draft where it's very hard to predict because Atlanta's going to get a ton of offers, right? They're going to get a ton of offers to trade down, especially if somebody wants Mac Jones. And if it's not Justin Fields, there's going to be some teams really trying to shoot up for them. And Atlanta needs everything. Now, we also have to worry about Atlanta making stupid picks and getting another offensive weapon. I mean, they're loaded in Atlanta with offensive weapons. I mean, we have Julio Jones, Calvin Ridley, Russell Gage. So, you know, adding a tight end, they have Hayden Hurst, who was, I believe, a first-round pick before. Now, of course, you can't compare him to Kyle Pitts because Pitts is, they say, transcending, but they say that about a lot of guys that don't turn out. They've been saying that about receivers every single year, and the best receivers seem to come out of the second round, transcending Kyle Pitts. Yeah, he was awesome at Florida, but some of those SEC defenses he played were not that awesome, you know? So, in my opinion, they got to trade down and beef up that defense. Their defense is terrible. Well, at least terrible in the sense that they gave up a lot of games. I remember when the Bears came back against them. You know, Detroit beat them. Obviously, they're in a division with Tampa Bay. They need to stop Tampa Bay. Why would you go score for score against Tampa Bay? Right? Tampa Bay's got the defense. They're going to shut you down a little bit. You know, you need to beef up that defense. They need to trade down. So I project them to trade down. It's the right thing to do, but I don't trust them. But I still think they're going to do that just because drafting another receiver type position, well, tight end, but still, that's all they've been doing is drafting guys like Calvin Ridley and Julio Jones. It's not moving the needle for you. You know, they also can use a running back later. So I have Denver trading up with them because I believe Denver is going to want another quarterback. They keep screwing that up. They tried to trade Drew Lock a little bit in the offseason, and I think they might have fallen in love with Trey Lance from North Dakota State. I don't think so. I have Trey Lance as my 7th best quarterback. But what can I do? That's what I think that they're going to do. I think Mac Jones is better. I think that Kyle Trask is even better. But what the heck? They're going to go for Trey Lance and take a gamble on it. I mean, people and teams are still stuck around the whole Carson Wentz thing. He was pretty successful when he came out of North Dakota State, I believe it was. And so that's what they're looking. He looks good because he ran a bunch of yards too. And you know the NFL is moving a little bit more into quarterbacks running the ball out of the pocket, getting chunks of yards, sliding and not getting hit. You know, Patrick Mahomes does that. Lamar Jackson, Russell Wilson did that for a while. Kyler Murray does it. So he ran 1,100 yards. 14 touchdowns on the ground, but this was the FCS, and North Dakota State's like the Alabama of the FCS. And the FCS is not even comparable really to the top, so very skeptical on that. Next, we have the Cincinnati Bengals. I think they draft Penei Sewell, offensive tackle from Oregon. What they should do, and I'm going to say this a lot during this draft because I believe a ton of teams should trade down. I think a lot of them are going to try to trade down and not get what they want, but end up sticking and having to pick where they're supposed to. But at the same time, I think teams will want to trade down, and you're going to see a lot of people trade down anyway. There's going to be more teams trying to trade down. Half of them will be able to do it, is what I'm trying to say. I don't hate this pick at all because they need blockers. And a lot of people are just speculating that it's going to be Jamar Chase because he played with Joe Burrow. But quarterbacks don't make that decision. And quarterbacks don't have the right to go into a GM's office and pound the table for a player because he played with him in college. That's more embarrassing than anything. Patrick Mahomes did an interview and he said even Mahomes at his status doesn't even do that. If he's asked, he'll give his advice, right? And I'm sure they do ask, but The fact that he tore his ACL just gives even more reason to protect him. That's a tough injury. They're going to draft an offensive tackle here. And it'd be crazy if they drafted Jamar Chase. This is the NFL. This isn't college football. Number 6, we have the Miami Dolphins that they got from Philly a while back. Who I think they're going to draft? Well, I think it is Kyle Pitts here. Tight end from Florida. Who I think they should pick? I got to tell you, there's a lot of people calling Devontae Smith small and skinny, and that's why he's the number 3 guy instead of the number 1. I think everybody that watched the college football championship thought Smith was the number 1 at that point, but then of course the geniuses come in. You know, the same people that had Mitch Trubisky number 2, and you know Deshaun Watson number 10, and you know the same people that had Patrick Mahomes like number 15 in their mock drafts came in and say no, he's too skinny. Well, Marvin Harrison was pretty skinny when he came out too. But the kid is lightning, and he's got football instincts. I like Kyle Pitts a ton, and I don't have a problem with them picking him. Obviously, the Dolphins need offensive help. But Devontae Smith played with Tua. He played with Tua and had the most catches in 2019 with Tua out of any of the receivers, even Ruggs. He had more catches than Ruggs, more catches than Jetty, right? I think more yards, too. Devontae Smith is the real deal. And I think that his speed could change things. Now, Kyle Pitts is awesome, too. He's also very fast for a tight end, but he's still a tight end. I think either player is going to help him. So that's where I think it's going to happen. A lot of people are saying they're going to pick Jamar Chase. We'll see. Number 7, New England Patriots. I have this via mock trade with Detroit. I know it's kind of weird that Matt Patricia came from Detroit. Matt Patricia's fired, and I'm having them do a mock trade like they're all buddy again. But at the same time, this is GM to GM, right? And the Lions have a new GM. He doesn't care. He's going to possibly get some more picks here. So, in my opinion, I think they're going to go with Mac Jones. Mac Jones, quarterback from Alabama. And if it's Justin Fields there, they're going to go with Justin Fields. But everything I said about Mac Jones, amazing numbers. He can read the defense before and after the snap. That's why he's so good. It's not just the great players he played around. 77% completion percentage, 41-4 TD to interception ratio. That's hard to argue with. The kid's a true leader, and he's now worth a top 3 or 4 quarterback, in my opinion. You know, last year, of course, might have not even been on people's draft boards, but he's proven a ton, even though he was playing with Alabama. And, of course, the big moment. What's he going to do when he gets to the playoffs? Well, he got to the college football playoffs and didn't even bat an eye. Number 8, Carolina Panthers. I think this is where Jamar Chase goes. Wide receiver, LSU. Chase, fantastic talent. His presence is certainly going to help Sam Darnold's confidence with Curtis Samuel, right? Being gone. He went to Washington. He's going to be playing with DJ Moore. Matt Rule is offensive-oriented, very offensive-oriented. They're not going to be able to turn this down. Top 3 receiver here. And, they want to give more weapons to their quarterback. Jamar Chase is the 2019 Biletnikoff Award winner who led the country that season with 1,780 yards and 20 touchdowns. Jamar ran a very fast 4.3440, and he is about 30 or 40 pounds heavier than Devonta Smith. No, he's about 20 or 30, not 30 or 40. All right. Next, we have the Atlanta Falcons at number 9. I have them picking Patrick Surtain, the second cornerback from Alabama. And I said that's who they should pick, actually. New general manager, Terry Fontenot, and Coach Arthur Smith moved down 5 spots here. They have a lot of needs, like I said before. This team needs defense. They really do. And Patrick Surtain is the safest cornerback out there, in my opinion. He ran a 4.4240, great height. He's at 6'2", 208 pounds. I expect him to make some noise right away in this league. So that's the pick. Number 10, the Dallas Cowboys, who I think that they're going to pick Caleb Farley, cornerback from Virginia Tech, who I think that they should pick, trade down, and get more picks. That's the right move. Caleb Farley just had that second back surgery, so he's definitely a little risky here. He did great in 2019, though, for Virginia Tech. Sat out last year. So we'll see. He was looked at as one of the best cornerbacks coming into the college season before he opted out. Now, unfortunately, Jared Jones is very unpredictable. I mean, would you really be surprised if he went and drafted another wide receiver right here?
Unreal.
Next, we have the New York Giants at number 11, who I think they will draft. Micah Parsons, linebacker from Penn State. Who they should draft, Azeez Ojulari, edge rusher from Georgia. Now, the Giants did a good amount in free agency. They get Kenny Galladay, John Ross for wide receiver. But I think that Gettleman is still going to avoid the pass rush and just go with more of a traditional linebacker here with Parsons. You see, I think he should draft someone that's actually built just for the pass rush. You know, Mike Parsons could be a very good player, but I think he's more of a middle linebacker, right? The pass rush is not deep at all in this draft. It's pretty weak. Azeez Ojulari stands just the top of this class. I think it would be an opportunity for the Giants to grab him here. 6'3", 240 pounds, runs a 4.6340, and I just think that's who they should draft, but I think they're going to go with Micah Parsons. Number 12, the Philadelphia Eagles from the big Miami and San Francisco trade. I think that they're going to go with Devontae Smith, wide receiver from Alabama. And who should they draft? I was fine with Devontae Smith here. Him or Jalen Waddle, I suppose. I like the idea of putting Jalen Hurts back with Devontae Smith. I mean, Hurts did get some reps with him in 2017 and 2018. There's some camaraderie there, most likely. I mean, Smith was great. Do we really have to talk about him? The only knock, like I said, was that he's thin and lightweight. But Jesus, 23 TDs last year, over 1,800 yards. That was just amazing at Alabama. Next, we have the Los Angeles Chargers at number 13, who I think they will pick Rashawn Slater, guard or tackle. You can play both from Northwestern. Who they should pick, I say trade down, but Rashawn Slater's pretty good here. The Wildcat offensive line was fantastic a couple years ago. It was good last year too, but this is when Rashawn played. He sat out last year. He's the only tackle in the Big Ten that I saw that somewhat could contain Chase Young. So you have to wonder how good the Northwestern could have been if he did play last year. But either way, his technique might be the best in the NFL as far as any of the offensive linemen. I also like the 4.9140 and the 4.45 shuttle time. His only knock that he's a little bit short and his arms are only 33 inches. But he's flexible, very safe pick here at number 13. Number 14, Minnesota Vikings, who I think they will pick. Elijah Vera Tucker, tackle from USC, who they should pick. I say trade down or pick Alex Leatherwood, offensive tackle from Alabama. I like him more. The Vikings did a lot in free agency, trying to help the defense, getting Dalvin Tomlinson, Patrick Peterson, Xavier Woods, and Stephen Weatherly. But, I mean, this D was so bad last year. You know, I still think they should trade down and get more picks. just trade down like 6-7 spots. You're still going to get a great tackle. Offensive line is very loaded here. But Vera Tucker had a nice 36 rep bench and 5.05 40-yard dash. This will take some pressure off Cousins, but I still think Leatherwood is better. Number 15, the Detroit Lions, via the mock trade with New England, who I think they will pick Jalen Waddle, wide receiver from Alabama, who they should pick Christian Darrisaw, offensive tackle from Virginia Tech. Brad Holmes is the new GM here for the Lions, and he has a ton of experience with the Rams, being the director of college scouting for them since 2013. This is his first year at the GM position, but I think he's going to fall to temptation to draft that big-name wide receiver. We all know that he whiffed on Jared Goff, right? I mean, of course, he was the GM, but he was the director of scouting. His team whiffed on Jared Goff a little bit. Goff wasn't as good as he could have been, or as a number 1 or 2 pick should be, right? But he was also part of the Rams whiffing on Sam Bradford way back in, I think it was like 2010. That's why I think that they're not going to go quarterback. They whiffed it too much before. The fact that Kenny Galladay and Marvin Jones left the team also makes it so the wide receiver is quite vacant for the Lions. I think the first year rebuild, you never draft a wide receiver, but I'm not sure if I trust Brad Holmes, and Waddle's there, and it just kind of seems like it makes sense. So, at least Waddle was looked at as the best wide receiver coming into the college football season. He was looked at as probably the first receiver to go in the draft before he got injured. Let's see where he's going to go when he hits free agency in 2025.
That's terrible.
Number 16, the Arizona Cardinals, who I think that they're going to pick J.C. Horn, cornerback from South Carolina. Who they should pick, Christian Barmore, defensive line from Alabama. With Patrick Pearson leaving for Minnesota, and the Cardinals preferring to keep Byron Murphy in the slot, drafting an outside corner kind of makes some sense for them. The speedy and physical Horn has the traits of being a number 1 corner in the NFL. He's played against the best competition in college in the SEC there. But the Cardinals did sign Malcolm Butler for about half the Peterson price, and their biggest need is against the run, in my opinion. Christian Barmore is the best defensive tackle in the draft, interior tackle, and I don't trust Steve Keim to do the right thing here. J.C. Horn's a nice player, but Barmore could help more immediately and really clog the run so we can get Kyler Murray on the field more often. I think it'd be a big miss if he goes cornerback over interior defensive line right here. Interestingly enough, I actually just saw Steve Keim. He was in the sidelines of his kids' t-ball team when they were playing my son's t-ball team. Probably should have went and asked him who was going to draft there, but I figured why bother? It's just so much more fun to speculate. I guess what level of degenerate would I have been if I went and asked Steve Keim who he was going to draft just so we can win some bets? 5-star degen, if you ask me. Number 17, the Las Vegas Raiders, who I think that they will pick Christian Darrisaw, offensive tackle from Virginia Tech, who they should pick Tevin Jenkins, offensive tackle from Oklahoma State. The Raiders had some big changes in their offensive line, trading away Trent Brown, guard Gabe Jackson, and center Rodney Hudson. According to Pro Football Focus, Darrisaw allowed 0 sacks and 6 total pressures out of 293 pass protecting snaps in 2020. So, I mean, that's great, but it was against the ACC. I just have Tevin Jenkins ranked a little bit higher, But I'm certainly not upset with that pick. Number 18, the Miami Dolphins, who I think that they will pick Alex Leatherwood, the offensive tackle from Alabama, who they should pick Alex Leatherwood, offensive tackle from Alabama. Lots of mocks say the Dolphins will go edge here, but they did already rank 9th in sacks last year, which is pretty good. And they still need to give Tua more protection. You know, Tua did have that hip injury at Alabama, if you remember. I think now that Chris Greer got his pass catcher, he's going to put Tua in with another familiar face from Alabama. Alex Leatherwood fits here. I like his 4.94 40 time, and he's familiar with the pro-style offense. So he can play tackle or guard. He also knows how to run block, and Miami only ranked 29th in yards per rush last year. So this would be a great pick if Miami picks Alex Leatherwood. Number 19, the Washington football team, who I think they will pick Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, a linebacker from Notre Dame. Who they should pick, I would say trade down or grab Jamin Davis, linebacker from Kentucky. Washington could go a few different directions here. They need O-line, linebacker, cornerback, a backup quarterback. But Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah seems to be the guy they're targeting from the information being thrown around the public. So he's a very versatile linebacker. He also can line up in the slot corner. He did that a few times last year with the Irish, but he didn't run his 40 at his pro day, so I really don't like him. The knock on him, he's kind of small and light, but Jamin Davis grades out much better. Number 20, my Chicago Bears, who I think they will draft Tevin Jenkins, offensive tackle from Oklahoma State, who they should draft Tevin Jenkins, offensive tackle from Oklahoma State. Now, let's face it, Ryan Pace is the worst GM in football. He not only doesn't understand how to build a team, he's also been a very poor judge of talent and the scouting process. I mean, picking guys like Adam Shaheen in the second round, Mitch Trubisky, and there's just so many of them. Kevin White, Floyd. You can't trust him to make the right decision. But I just got to think that they're going to pick offensive tackle here. The fact that they signed Andy Dalton, they need to protect him some. Offensive line was pretty bad in the Mitch years here. They kind of got it together a little bit better last year towards the second half of the season. They've actually pulled some guys from the practice squad that ended up being starting caliber football players, starting caliber guards and center. Sam Mustipher, Alex Bars, a couple of those guys. But they still need to fill the tackle position here. And Tevin, like I said, grades out the best. 6'5 frame, 4.66 shuttle drill. I kind of like that. He might even be the best tackle in this draft. So hopefully the Bears do that and go quarterback a little bit later. I mean, why take a risk on the 6th quarterback when the 6th is not even predicted to be a first round, probably in the second round where a Kellen Mond or Kyle Trask might go. Now, this is where the good teams start drafting, except for the Jets and the Jags, because they get more picks. Indianapolis Colts at 21, who I think there will draft Kwity Paye from Michigan, defensive end, who they should draft Jalen Phillips, defensive end. The Colts need a pass rush after losing Denico Autry to the Titans. Justin Houston is also sitting unsigned, so I think they go pass rush. They also have to draft an offensive tackle, but I think they wait on that because Anthony Costanzo is he retired. So Paye has some good measurables, and he's pretty fast, 4.51 40. I kind of like that, but he's only 6'2", and he's a little short for that position. So in my opinion, Jalen Phillips fits better here, 6'5", and he ran a 4.56 40. And so I just like his size better in this situation. Number 22, the Tennessee Titans, and who I think they will pick, Elijah Moore, wide receiver from Ole Miss, who they should pick, Liam Eichenberg, offensive tackle from Notre Dame. The Titans addressed the pass rush by getting Bud Dupree in the offseason Tennessee had the worst pass blockers in the league last year, ranking 32nd in sack percent. Being that many of the top offensive tackles will be drafted, I think that they're going to go with wide receiver here to fill the Corey Davis void. I personally would draft O-line and wait and grab Rondale Moore later, right? But Elijah Moore is a little bit taller and also extremely fast, 4.35 40. And the fact that he went to Ole Miss kind of fits with how they've been successful drafting A.J. Brown. So it's kind of a fit there in a way. I just think that they go wide receiver, but they shouldn't. They should go offensive line, in my opinion. Number 23, the New York Jets from Seattle. They got this trade. So who I think they're going to pick, Greg Newsome II, cornerback from Northwestern, who they should pick. That's it. Greg Newsome II, cornerback from Northwestern. Now that Robert Saleh's got his franchise quarterback, time to build on that defense. No better way to get started than getting Greg Newsome from Northwestern. Being a Badger fan, I saw Newsome play. The kid's pretty legit. 6 foot, 4.39 40-yard dash. I'm liking him. Number 24, the Pittsburgh Steelers, who I think that they will pick. Najee Harris, running back from Alabama, who they should pick. I say trade down and get an offensive lineman, or maybe Najee or ETN a little bit later. Maybe they trade down to number 30. They still can get Najee there, in my opinion. And ETN is almost just as good, in my opinion. Pittsburgh, they've got some position groups to address. Marcus Pouncey retired. Bud Dupree left in free agency. That was that edge rusher that they had there opposite of TJ Watt. But this team likes to draft the best player available. You know, the Steelers owner Art Rooney talked about establishing a much better run game as soon as the season ended. The Steelers ranked last in that department last year. Drafting Harris would give the Steelers a chance to feature a run game in the way they haven't since Le'Veon Bell left. So they'll probably wait to get offensive line. Number 25, Jacksonville Jaguars, and they got this from the Rams, who I think they will draft Azeez Ojulari, edge from Georgia, who they should draft. Right there, I agree with that. Azeez Ojulari, edge from Georgia. Now that Jaguars have their franchise quarterback, what better way than getting the pass rusher? He's the best edge prospect, in my opinion, in this draft. Like I said before, he fits the 3-4 scheme that Joe Cullen ran in Baltimore. At 6'3", 240 pounds, running a 4.63 40. I like him in this situation. Number 26, the Cleveland Browns, who I think that they will draft Jamin Davis, linebacker from Kentucky, who they should draft Jamin Davis, linebacker from Kentucky. Like I said before, Davis grades pretty high. He was amazing last season. 96 tackles, 3 interceptions, and a sack. Covered the field all. He was just all over the place. He could play any of the linebacker spots, right? Cleveland's got a 4-3 defense, so he's going to be blitzing a little bit too. Being that the Browns lost defensive tackle Larry Ogunjobi in free agency, I can also see them going that route, but Jamin Davis just makes more sense, and the DT position can be covered in the next round because there's not a lot of first-round defensive tackles coming off the board. Edge is a need, but they also did sign Jadeveon Clowney, so I think that takes that off the board too. Myles Garrett and Jadeveon Clowney there. The Browns are close to being a great team. They proved that last year with their game against Kansas City. Number 27, the Baltimore Ravens, who I think that they will draft Jason Owa, edge from Penn State, who they should draft. Probably Jason Owa, edge from Penn State. Trading back's the best thing to do, in my opinion. I scratch my head with Jason Owa, okay? You have a guy here that didn't get a sack last year, but he did have 15 quarterback hurries. He played for Penn State. He had some quarterback hits, only played 7 games. He was still effective. He actually didn't play organized football until his junior year of high school, and so he's going to need some help, more help developing. He ran a 4.36 40-yard dash for a man that's 6'5", 257 pounds. That's just fantastic. That was like what Clowney, that was faster than what Clowney did in Clowney's combine back in the day when we were talking about it. I mean, he also had a great shuttle run, 4.21, 21 reps at 225. He's a freak. But let's just hope he's not one of those players that looks like Tarzan and plays like Jane, because I still don't like the fact that he couldn't get 1 sack in 7 games. Number 28, the New Orleans Saints, who I think that they will pick. Christian Barmore, defensive tackle from Alabama, who they should pick. Trade down, I'd say, for more picks, or Christian Barmore if not. So the Saints literally have no money. They came into this draft with no money. They can't sign anybody. They lost a ton to free agency, including defensive end Trey Hendrickson, defensive tackle Sheldon Jenkins, and cornerback Janoris Jenkins. I think the Saints are known for stuffing the run. They're going to want to keep that going first, so they're going to pick a guy like Barmore, in my opinion. I also think that he could be 5 technique, 3 technique. He could get to the quarterback, stuff the run, just like I said. But the biggest thing I also like about this pick is that it sounds like Tampa Bay wants this guy, and it's just a great opportunity to block Tampa Bay here. A division rival. Block them. Grab their guy before they get the opportunity to pick. So I kind of like that situation as well. Number 29, the Green Bay Packers, who I think they will draft Zaven Collins, linebacker from Tulsa, who they should draft Zaven Collins, linebacker from Tulsa. Zaven Collins had a good pro day, and the Packers could use someone to help stop the run. I mean, the Packers' only weakness was stopping the run the last few years. It showed up a few times last year, was worse in 2019. But they also could give Aaron Rodgers some more weapons. So you wonder if they're going to do that, but they've been stubborn to do that, you know? They've been stubborn to do that in the first round. I don't like wide receivers in the first round in general either. I think they can get one in the second too. So Zaven Collins is a very safe pick in my opinion. Great football instincts, should be contributing day one. Number 30, the Buffalo Bills, who I think that they're going to draft Jalen Phillips, defensive end from Miami, who they should draft Jalen Phillips, defensive end from Miami. Buffalo could use another defensive end with Jerry Hughes starting to show his age, and Jalen Phillips from Miami really fits in. He had a phenomenal pro day. He's big, 6'5", 259 pounds, ran a 4.56 40, which was off the charts for that size of a player, you know. Unless you're Oa, of course. He made everyone look slow. But in 2020, Phillips totaled 45 tackles, 8 sacks, and an interception, and 3 passes defended. And I think that's on a 10-game season. So he did a fantastic job. Number 31, the Kansas City Chiefs, who I think that they will pick Jalen Mayfield, offensive tackle from Michigan, who they should pick. I think Samuel Cosmi, offensive tackle from Texas, is who they should pick. The Chiefs rebuilt their interior offensive line in free agency by signing left guard Joe Thuney and center Austin Blythe. And they also got Kyle Long, who was supposedly retired, but he was probably just sick of the Bears. They still need a tackle. They released starters Eric Fisher and Mitchell Schwartz last year, if you remember. Mayfield was a starter at right tackle for the Wolverines, but he also got some snaps and filled in at left tackle as a freshman. Mayfield could be okay, but the Wolverines were pretty bad last year, so that worries me. I think Samuel Cosmi just had the best combine out of all the tackles with 36 reps on the bench, 4.87 40-yard dash, and 4.39 shuttle. Cosmi's a bit green and plays a little bit high. He gets flack for not bending his knees, but that could be fixed in the next level. Finally, last and certainly not least, the team that doesn't need anybody, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who I think that they will pick Gregory Rousseau, edge from Miami, who they should pick. I say trade down, or Gregory is fine here. What does a team do when they really don't need anything? Well, I think you should trade down and get more picks in the future. But, I mean, the best player available is Gregory Rousseau here, and he kind of fits the bill. Gregory had to sit out last season to help his parent, who was frontline workers during COVID. So that's understandable. But the season before, he had 15.5 sacks in 2019, which was phenomenal. He ran a decent 4.68 40 time, big 6'7", 260 pounds. That's not bad at all. So there it is. There is our first round mock draft, my friends. The total amount of offensive players, we have 18 on offense, 14 on defense. We have 5 quarterbacks going, 7 offensive line, 4 cornerbacks, 4 wide receivers, 1 tight end, 1 running back, and 0 safeties. The rest are edge and linebackers because there's usually not too many props on edge because people will say he was drafted as a linebacker, not as an edge rusher. And also the same deal with defensive ends. A linebacker will be picked as a defensive end. And they'll say, well, that was a linebacker drafted. So books do not like to put out those props. All right, my friends, if you have any questions about the draft, please feel free to tweet us at the Odds Breakers. Now, let's get into a little UFC 261 with Cub Fan Danny. And now it's time to get into a little UFC 261. And we have our guy, Mr. Cub Fan Danny, back to break down this event for Saturday night. Danny, how you been, my man?
Hanging, Kiev, hanging. Thanks for having me, brother.
No problem. Thanks for coming back. I'm excited for the UFC this weekend. We have not 1, not 2, but 3 title fights, don't we?
3. One with Usman and Masvidal.
Yeah.
And then Shevchenko and Zhang are both champions. They're both fighting in their weight class. So should be a good card. Should be a fun card.
Yeah, it's a good card, and I started digging into it yesterday, and I think I might be able to find a play or two here, but we'll see kind of if our stars align here and we're on the same side, or maybe we'll be on the different side. We never know, so it's going to be interesting to find out, my man. I picked... Well, I got 2 fights for sure here, and the main event we have to talk about. Why don't we save that one for last? I don't know if that's the one of the ones you picked, but I think it's better. Let's just save that one for last. I'm going to start with Rose Namajunas versus Weili Zhang here, Danny. And Zhang has been a beast since she's been fighting, really. I mean, she's 21-1, but is she really? Do you count that first fight that she had in 2013 in China against her? You know,
no.
I mean,
the answer is no. Yeah,
yeah. I mean, seriously, in my book, she's really undefeated. She started fighting in the UFC in 2018, but she was unstoppable back in China. And she's just been beating the crap out of people since she's joined. You know, she beat up Jessica Andrade, Joanna there, Torres. She's just been fantastic. And I watched a couple replays of her fights as well because I can only remember me watching her probably once or twice live here. But I mean, she's just very good. And her opponent here, Rose Namajunas, I will say 9-4. But it's a little bit of a deceptive 9-4. I think she's better than 9-4. I think she's more like a 10-3, 11-2 type fighter. That one loss against Jessica Andrade where she got slammed on her back, that was just that was some bad luck. And then she came back and beat Jessica Andrade afterwards.
Andrade,
yeah, Andrade, yeah. So here's the thing I don't think that Zhang's going to be beaten here. She's just the top of her class, man. She's very motivated. Mm-hmm. Here's what's really interesting. They're both in 115, which is a straw weight class, Danny. Mm-hmm. Out of Zhang's 21 fights, there's only been 4 decisions, and there's been 5 decisions out of the 13 fights for Namajunas. I expect more decisions in this weight class. So these girls throw down a little bit, man. They fight not to go to decision, which I find very interesting. But in saying that, Weili's just the better technical fighter, in my opinion. If you if you look at the the metrics and kind of how they match up here. Zhang, 6.38 significant strikes per minute to 4.13 for Namajunas. She's also better at the floor and grappling. I think Namajunas takes down more often, but I just don't think it's going to come to that. Here's the thing. She's laying like minus 210 here, Danny. I think that this fight is not going to go the 5 rounds. I think they're going to put their nose into it. But I also think that Zhang is going to win this fight. And I think you can get a nice price at plus 195 if you pay for Zhang, if you bet Zhang to win within the distance. So instead of laying the minus 200, when there's an outside shot that Namajunas can catch Zhang, because Zhang's only had 5 or 6 UFC fights itself. I think I'm going to go for the bigger one here. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think I like that. I like that pick, but I'm on the Zhang boat here as well. I really like Rose Namajunas. She's really a great fighter. She did lose that one getting slammed in her back, right? But Zhang is just so stinking good, and she's so technical, and she's a strong 115. She's no small girl, right? At 115. Do I have confidence in her knocking out Rose? I don't. Do I have confidence in her taking Zhang, taking to the distance and out technical boxing her? Yeah, 100%. But I also could see her finishing the fight early, which makes it a little bit nervous for me. I'm okay. I'm typically not okay with these prices, but I'm okay leaving minus 190 where you can get it at some sites there. Anything over 2 I wouldn't do, but at minus 190, I think that's a good bet. Her just straight up, because for me, I don't know if it's going to be the distance, or I don't know if it's going to be a TKO if something happens. I can't predict that. What I can predict is I know that Zhang's going to win this fight.
Yeah, maybe you do a little bit of both too. Take the smaller payout and then take a shot at the larger payout too. There's a chance you can do that, but of course, obviously, if it goes to decision and win, it could just be more that you. I guess pushed if you put twice the amount on her winning at the minus 190, minus 200, and then maybe half that on the KO. You'll just completely push. So what do you have for a fight that you picked?
There's a Jimmy Crute fight coming with Anthony Lionheart Smith, and Anthony Smith took this fight on short notice. Anthony Smith is a really good technical fighter. He's fought some of the top guys, right? And he's lost to him when he got up to that opportunity to fight the top guys like Glover Teixeira. He got beat. John Jones, he lost in a title fight. He didn't look great in that one. Thiago Silva's here. But he also beat a lot of great guys as well going up. Rashad Evans, Mauricio Hua, Volkan Ozdemir. So he's fought a lot of guys as well. And he's got that background of being a guy that's going to give you a great fight. But, man, Jimmy Crute has looked really good, and he's really hungry right now here in the UFC. He's only been around since 2018, came over with Dana White's Contender Series, and really he fought some tough guys as soon as he came in. Paul Craig, tough guy, he beat him in submission. Sam Alvey, he knocked him out. Ran into a little issue with the submission, but then again, submission again. Man, the guy's a really, really good fighter. So the thing is, Anthony Smith's coming in. I think he took it to fight in 2 weeks' notice, which I don't think is enough time, enough camp. But I do know that these guys are going to throw down, right? And I really like Jimmy Crute a lot, but he's a minus 190, so I can't take that minus 190. I just don't feel comfortable in it. But, boy, you can get Jimmy Crute inside the distance at plus 130. I think that's what's going to happen. I really think that Jimmy Crute is going to be show his opportunity first time on the main card and really want to show people what he could do. And I think he's going to perform really, really well. The guy's got heavy hands. He could really hit. So I could see Anthony Lionheart Smith go down.
All right, man. Great points. And I actually picked this fight too, Danny. I mean, Anthony Smith, I looked at his card and his records, and he has beat some people that kind of surprised me a little bit, I try to remember some of his fights, and I just feel like he's always stepped up. Glover Teixeira is very tough, of course, but beating Ozdemir is fantastic in my opinion. Gustafsson was looked at as a very good fighter before, so he did do that. He caught Devin Clark his last fight back in November here by a triangle choke. the interesting thing that for me is that both of these fighters really know how to submit in their ground game. Mm-hmm. And I wrote down, just as you said, Jimmy Crute's the hungrier fighter, 28 years old, 11 wins, 5 KOs, 4 submissions, and 3 decisions. So Crute also knows how to submit. His only loss was by submission. So that makes me feel that that could be a little bit of a weakness here. Anthony Smith, very seasoned fighter, 32 years old, 34 wins, 16 losses. He's only went to decision 5 times in his career. Mm-hmm. So only 1/8 of his fights went to decision. So I kind of like where you're going with that. Smith loses mainly by KO, but he's also been submitted 4 times. So when Smith wins, 18 KOs, 13 submissions. The last couple of those fights, some of those big fighters we mentioned, were wins by submission. Both these fighters, good ground game. Crute's the better technical fighter at 4.36 significant strikes per minute to Allen's 2.94. Crute will take you down 4.33 takedowns per 15. Allen's only got 0.49. Now, some of these stats are skewed because Allen's just fought way longer and way better competition. So it's not that much of a difference that I said. You know, you always have to take that into account because Jimmy started the UFC in 2019 after the Dana White series in 2018. The odds say that the fight isn't going to go to decision, just like you said. The odds say minus 145. But it happens to go to decision. I think Crute wins due to his technical fighting, if it just happens. So the way I want to play this, Smith hasn't knocked anyone out since 2018. He went 6 fights since then. If he wins, it's submission. If Anthony Smith wins this, it's submission. But I also think that Crute could win by submission as well, and both fighters are susceptible. So I was going to do it like this, and I'm not sure if I don't like yours better, to be honest with you. I was going to take Anthony Smith by submission at plus 700 for a half star, and Jimmy Crute by submission for plus 700 at 0.5 stars, and then I was going to put Anthony Crute to win it all at minus 200 for 2 stars. So that way, if Anthony Smith wins, you still are up a unit, right? If he wins by submission, which I expect, if that's the only way he's going to beat him, because Jimmy Crute would win technically with the points. But Jimmy Crute could win by submission. You'll be up 4.5 units if that happens, right? And so that was the way I was looking at it. But you seem to have the easy play here within the distance at what, plus 130? You said
plus 130. Yeah.
Okay, no, I like where you're going right there too. So I'm going to think more about it here, but I think we both agree that Crute wins.
Yeah. The only negative I have with Jimmy Crute is he's fought all his fights there in Australia. That's where he's won, except that Dana White fight. Everything else has been out by him. He did do well out on Fight Island with his last fight with the KO, and boy, he looked like he hit a guy with cinder block, right? But that's the only concern I have about him. Time change, how's it working for him going to Las Vegas? But maybe because it's a little bit less wild right now because of this whole Corona thing going on. Maybe he's just more focusing on the camping in Las Vegas. But that would be my only concern, just that time difference and change. Right. If I had to look at a negative for Crute.
All right, fantastic, man. Well, this was the fight one of the fights that I picked. So why don't we get both get into the Shevchenko fight then, man? This, and I know you love Valentina, and I
love her. Yeah.
I do too. You know, and I also wonder, why can't we just have her rematch Nunes, right? I mean, she was the only one that really put up against Nunes, right? I mean, her decision was a split decision, you know. And then how everyone just complains for McGregor rematches against Poirier, right? They always want the guy. Why is nobody shooting for this? And I know she's lighter than Nunes, but they can make it work. Do it at the 135 or something. I don't know. Pay him a little bit more. Shit. Because both of these fighters are kicking everybody's asses. That's the problem, right? Both of these fighters are beating the crap out of other people. And so she fought Nunes twice. I would like to see it 3 times because nobody else has really been able to stand up to Nunes except her. But here, this is what we're looking at here. Shevchenko, I have lost bets on her just trying to do better and say within the distance, right? I go for it, and then sometimes it goes to decision. There's not one thing in my body that says, or in my brain, that says that Jessica Andrade is going to beat her. I think Valentina wins, but Valentina, it could be either way. You're laying minus 400, minus 450 here, but to be honest with you, I think she's just as dominant as Zhang, just as dominant as Nunez in her weight class compared to these other women. So to be honest with you, Danny, I think I'm going to lay the minus 450 for a couple stars. I just think it's the safest play. I think I'm going to be sitting back and sure, I'll make, what is it, $25 for a $100 bet or something, right?
Yeah.
So what? I think this is a very safe play. What are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, listen, I love her to death. I think she's just technical as technical could be. So let's go back a few fights here, right? So this goes to 2016. This is how she, and she's only lost one of these fights, okay, to Nunez. So she went decision, submission, decision, submission, decision, knockout, decision, KO, decision. There's a little bit of a pattern here, right? It's every other fight she's taking the fighter out early. Is that something that maybe we should be looking at, right? I know that she could beat Jessica Andrade in her sleep and take her out. So can she do it again and take him out early? Maybe that's another play you could have, a small play on taking her out inside the distance because there's plus money there, plus 125 inside the distance, right?
Yeah.
So,
I mean, you'd have to, if you would really want to cover it with Shevchenko, like say, well, I want to win and be profitable, you'd have to put a much larger times, like 6 or 7 more times your size of your bet. So maybe you would have to go like a quarter unit on Shevchenko to do it within the distance, at the plus money. Yeah. And then you would have to go 3 units on, just to win. So
it's just a thought, throwing it out there, right? Just what she's been doing. Let me tell you something. We didn't bring this up, but this fight's in Florida. This fight's in Jacksonville, and this fight is completely sold out. So these guys have not fought in front of anybody in over a year. No crowd, no nothing. I wonder how much is really going to energize the people that are fighting this upcoming weekend, right? And I think there's certain fighters that need that. Guys like Conor, they need the crowd. So, I think coming up to the next fight here, I think that's one that we're going to talk about with Jorge and Usman, and how much this crowd work is really going to help to benefit this last fight and make it a fun fight. What do you think?
Let's do it. Let's get into it, man, because that's all. I don't have anything left here. I'm going to go through the rest of the card and find some premium plays for subscribers here. But let's get right into it. This is the big fight here, and you and I both love Masvidal, Danny. But after, we were very impressed when Masvidal had that 5-second knockout, Danny. But guess who that knockout was against? Or tell the audience.
Your Wisconsin boy.
The one that just got his ass kicked by Jake Paul in a boxing ring, dude. Jesus Christ, man.
Yeah.
Oh, man. That is embarrassing right there. I just got to tell you, UFC fans were pretty embarrassed for what happened there. And, it makes Masvidal's 5-second knockout certainly look a little bit worse here against Ben Askren. And it was one of the coolest things that we saw. We were together when we saw it. It was fantastic. And then now Ben Askren looks just absolutely terrible, out of shape, and does this to the UFC. Screw you, Askren. I don't even think the guy went jogging before this fight to prepare for it. But either way, Masvidal, I mean, the guy's awesome. He's a great crowd guy. You know, people really get behind him, and I think he's going to have the crowd against Kamaru Usman. So, to answer your question, Danny, this crowd probably does benefit him a little bit, but is it enough to take down the minus 400 favorite that some people are calling the best fighter ever in this weight class? Woo!
Yeah,
that's where.
Listen,
go ahead.
This is one of the most disrespectful lines I've ever seen in my life. Really, I mean, they're basically saying Jorge Masvidal is a piece of garbage, right? This guy's gone out there; he's been doing it for years. You know, I was really down on him after 2017 because I felt like he was a guy that could have been a champion, and then it was just, for whatever reason, he just would blow the fight, right? And he just did not look good. He took a year off. He came back, beat Darren Till, beat Ben Askren. And in this fight was even more impressive what he did to Nate Diaz. And that was his last fight before Usman. Now, the last time he fought Usman, he was like 25 pounds overweight. And they said, hey, Gilbert Burns is not going to fight. Would you want to step in? And he goes, all right, it was a week. He had a week.
Right.
So there was no training involved. He had to drop 25 pounds in a week. Look, it wasn't the same fighter. That's what probably these matchmakers are looking at, right? And I think Usman's a great fighter. Kamaru Usman's a great fighter. You know, he does good. I think sometimes he fights not to lose, and then he can also fight to win. And Jorge's a guy that just wants to bang. Let's go and bang. And I honestly, if Kamaru really smothers Masvidal, it'll be a long fight for Masvidal, but Masvidal has to be good on his feet, and I think he's going to do a lot better this fight. You know, again, I'm going to go back to his training, 1 week training. He went for the money grab, and that was okay. And I think this crowd is really going to be behind Jorge. He's a Florida guy. They're fighting in Florida. Everybody loves to watch him fight. I think it's going to be a really good thing that the crowd is back in there. And look, Kamaru's going to start hearing the boos. People are going to start hearing the boos. And I think at that point, these guys are going to say, all right, come on, let's throw. Let's do. Hopefully, Usman wants to do the same thing that he did to Colby Covington and actually stand up and fight, which I think Jorge can actually beat anybody in that division with his stand-up. So, at plus 350, I cannot look and say I'm not taking those numbers because minus 440 is so disrespectful. Plus 350 is completely disrespectful. You're basically saying Jorge is one of the worst fighters in that weight class, and he doesn't even belong to fight Kamaru Usman. So I'm going to go straight 350 here with Jorge.
Oh, look at that, man. And you and I both always say how boring Usman fights are because all he does is push people up against the side and just waits for the clock to tick while he slams on their feet with his foot. You know, I mean, knees. And that's his style. It's go the distance type stuff, and it drives me nuts. And you're right. Could the crowd get him frustrated and get him into a boxing match with Jorge, right? Get him into a stand-up fight without all the BS. Well, I don't know if Usman's stupid enough to do that. It's what you hope for, but Jorge would be a big advantage for Jorge. But this is a massive spread here. Usman has one loss, but this is just like with Zhang. His first loss, it was his second fight ever back in like 2014 or something. You know, I don't even count that against Usman. But the great point that you made is Jorge was a week had to drop 20 pounds in 1 week, and he did it. And he stood up and fought Kamaru there and Usman, and did a great job. I mean, he went the distance with Usman, which is kind of what we say Usman does anyway. But was proud of him for that, you know. So for me, I would probably bet that it goes the distance. You know, let's see what the numbers are to go the distance here. And
listen, he hasn't. I always go back to Usman, right? And he hasn't fought the greatest of the great. Damian Maia old, Rafael Dos Anjos old, Tyron Woodley old. Yeah, he had a massive war with Colby, and it went into the 5th round. But Jorge was, we already talked about that. And then Gilbert Burns was a stupid idiot who was drinking the night before his biggest fight. Went in hungover. So he hasn't fought great guys in their prime. And that's what a lot of those things I look at, right? I mean, he's got some nice fights against Leon Edwards, but that was 6 years ago, 5.5 years ago. Other than that, it's just been okay guys. So I think Jorge's one of the top guys here in the division, if not the best, and he wants to bang. So at least for the price of the fight, I think it's worth at least watching Masvidal.
Yeah, Usman's the second ranked out of everybody. John Jones is the first ranked fighter. Then Volkanovski's next. Izzy's next. Then Ngannou's next. Poirier's after that. Stipe. So, I mean, minus 180 is to go to decision. And I do worry about that because you might see what you did see with Covington here. I'm looking for where he ranks here, and Masvidal ranks fourth. So actually fifth because it goes Usman, Covington, Burns, which Burns has been doing better, Leon Edwards, and then Jorge Masvidal. So you're right. I mean, for the fifth guy down, it's still a pretty big spread here at minus 400. Not sure if I'm going to jump in that boat with taking him, but I'll tell you this: a lot of people that decide not to take Masvidal that want to, if Masvidal somehow pulls this out of his ass, people are going to be really upset that they didn't bet it, even though I'm not sure. I'm not sure if there's value in it. That's my problem, Danny. There's no value.
Kiev, here's the deal: he's got such good odds. You don't need to put a premium, your biggest play on it. You know, when you put your biggest play on it, if you're up there at the end of the night and you have extra, you put a little bit more. Because at plus 350, geez, man, that's disrespectful. The guy's got power. Guy could take anybody out. So, yeah. Look what he did to Nate. Look what he did to Nate Diaz.
Yeah, this could be the best fight you ever see from him too. You know, just kind of that perfect fight. When the fighter fights that perfect fight, it happens sometimes.
Yep.
Sometimes people play a perfect basketball game. You know, perfect quarterback game at a football game. It happens. So that's really interesting, Danny. I'm going to look into it a little bit more and see if that price is right. So I have no decision on that, but right now I'm going to lean to the fight goes to the distance at minus 180, my man. Anything else we have to discuss for UFC 261?
No, brother, I'm good. I don't have anything. I just want people to have a good time this weekend and enjoy it and make some money.
All right, my man. Well, thanks so much for coming on, Danny. Really appreciate it. If you guys have any questions, make sure you tweet at Cub Fan Danny. My friends, thanks so much for listening to this episode of the Odds Breakers. We are going to get into more NFL draft next week with some plays for you. Have a fantastic weekend watching the games, watching the fights, and go get some winners.